Points are at a premium in Pittsburgh. Could the Patriots actually get another easy week?
Bills, Broncos, Bears, Rams. The NFC is shaping up to be interesting. The AFC may be true to form. Divisional's coming up.
Wildcard weekend is a wrap. We'll go over the aftermath and preview what's ahead on Sunday Scaries with Buccs McGee.
Wild card weekend, man. Overall, 9 out of 10. Might have been a 10 out of 10, except for the sad, depressing situation we've known as the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans.
Buccs McGee, wait. It couldn't be even sadder then, because I feel like we're going to get some hate for ignoring a playoff game, ignoring the Patriots, but the Chargers didn't give us much to talk about, much reason to talk about the Patriots. So could this Steelers game actually be worse than that?
Oh, well, so far, yeah, I'd say yeah. At least it's a situation where at least, with New England and the Chargers, it was the offenses moved the ball. You had hope. You had some hope. This mess, Stroud can't hold on to the ball. Aaron Rodgers is just throwing for his life. He doesn't know if he's going to even survive next week. The way this is going, it's a rough situation. The offense is barely getting points on the board. It's rough. I have no clue. This is so ridiculous, but it's not. There's no shutouts, but I don't know, man. I had so much more hope for this game. I really did. I thought at least one team would be in double digits by the half or such, but I guess not.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a rough one, and we'll break it down as best we can. CJ Stroud's got a little bit of butterfingers, and he's yet still outpassing Aaron Rodgers, miraculously so.
Yeah. Yep, 118 yards, a touchdown, and 2 quality fumbles, man. I don't know how you do that, but that's him. And then Aaron Rodgers, 9 of 15 for 79 yards, and pretty much looking for his Metal Alert bracelet most of the night because he's picking himself up off the ground. It's really simple at this point. The Pittsburgh's got to give him time to throw the ball. And they've got the run game at first looked good, and now it's kind of, fallen off. I don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do. I think the only way they're going to win is if, they're able to actually capitalize on, the turnovers that Houston's giving them. Mm-hmm. Two fumbles, you figure that at least 10 points. You'd think they'd get at least a touchdown out of one of them. Nope, they're like, we're going to kick our way to victory. So this game's going to end up being like a 9-7 fiesta.
Yeah, and it's like Houston's defense is the lone bright spot here because the Texans are doing everything imaginable to lose this game, and Pittsburgh still can't, like you said, they can't capitalize on it.
The defenses have come to play. The offenses are non-existent, and I don't know. For Houston, I think to pull this out, CJ's got to get it together. Got to get at least 2 real serious drives going. At least coming out of halftime, they've got to have a good drive of points. He's got to get his head right. If he ends up turning the ball over again, they're in serious trouble. I think Rodgers will somehow figure some way to manufacture points, and the Steelers could end up winning an ugly game.
Yeah, we joke around that, Aaron Rodgers is, on the wrong side of father time, and we're waiting for him to finally fall off the edge of the cliff. But he's also the type of player that if Houston just lets them hang around long enough, eventually Aaron Rodgers will get it right. I don't know if it's quite the same old broken clock is right twice a day situation, but you can't you're playing with fire if you let Aaron Rodgers hang around like this.
Yeah, it's going to be a deal where it's going to be that one drive where just he looks like he's turned back the clock. And if they get that going, if they get one or at least 2 of those drives, I think the Steelers pull this out and move on.
Yeah, Christian Kirk's looked all right. Woody Marks was moving the ball, but he got banged up. Went to the 10 at one point. So Houston's got other injuries on top of CJ Stroud struggles here.
And at the beginning of the game, they looked sharp. There were a couple passes to Christian Kirk. I was like, all right, they've got something going. Maybe this is how Pittsburgh Swan song. The upstart Texans come out and do their thing, but lo and behold, it's inconsistent. What Stroud's got to do, like I said, is just get a good drive under his belt, even if it gets him only 3 points. Just a good drive. The run game, everything just trying to work in unison, and they should be okay, but I don't know.
Well, one thing you noted earlier was the struggles of Pittsburgh's offensive line as well. So is it maybe just the difference is that's why Pittsburgh can't take control of this?
It very well could be. Like I said, I've sung the praises of Houston's defense all year, man. That secondary is fast. They hit hard. Sometimes they get a little ahead of themselves, and some penalties may follow suit. But they're a dangerous group, and that front seven and that front four with Will Anderson Jr. and such, those guys are good. So it's youth versus age right now. Let's be realistic.
It's so funny to me that the way the overall quality of Wild Card Weekend was like a runaway train going up the hill, and then it hits these last two primetime games that goes.
You're telling me, man, because at this point, Herbie's fraudulent too. Herbie's getting a single. Herbie's getting a single suite at the fraudulent penthouse. He doesn't get into passes anymore. Like, he's 0-3 in the playoffs. Like, and mind you, New England's defense was played great last night, but still, there were just some passes he could have completed that he didn't. I don't know what's going on, but he's not getting passes anymore. At the last couple of years, it was like either the coaching or something else. So it was like he was always kind of getting a pass. After tonight, no, he's either got to put up or shut up. That's where it's at.
And how does that kind of also reflect on we keep waiting for the Patriots to face a real test, and it still hasn't come yet. And based on the way this Monday night game is going, he's still not likely to face a good test.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing: if they face Houston, it's going to be the Houston defense is going to be there. The offense, who knows? What offense they're going to get. So all New England's going to have to do is make sure they protect the ball. They can run the ball. So it might be a close game through the first half, but New England will figure something out and probably be able to put up enough points. If it's somehow Grandpa Time and the Pittsburgh Steelers, then it's going to be a situation where I think New England would be able to hold their D line a bit better and just run the ball. They would run the ball on the Steelers. That's what that would be, and then the pass game would come alive.
Yeah, we've seen Pittsburgh's run defense struggle quite a bit this year. This playoff game is no different. So it's, and when you think about the perspective of them having to face Trevion Henderson and a resurgent Ramondre Stevenson, that's not very good medicine for the ailing Pittsburgh run defense.
Not at all. And Ramondre's catching passes out of the backfield like he's freaking, I don't even know, whoever you want to pick out there.
CMC.
Yeah, exactly. They got their bigger version of freaking CMC. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? One-handers, just lighting it up. So if that's what they're going to do, the Steelers have no chance. Like, they've got a decent defense. TJ Watt, I'm not going to say that they're a horrible defense, but New England would just have too many weapons for them.
Right. And on the flip side with Houston, if they could figure out a way to survive this disaster, They don't have, we were thinking that the Texans offense was kind of rounding into form a little bit and being more diversified. Maybe CJ Stroud was taking advantage of all the options he has, but it's not looking like that. And the New England secondary is also nothing to sneeze at either with Christian Gonzalez back there.
No, diversively bad is just what this offense is. and looking in that New England defense from last night, they're stacked on all levels. So I don't know how CJ Stroud's going to sit there and chew apart the New England secondary when he can't do that against Pittsburgh secondary. He can't even hold on to the ball. So it's a bad situation for Houston. That they would have to play a perfect game. Really, the run game would have to come alive, and CJ would just have the passing game would have to be absolutely on point. And I don't know if that's happening.
I didn't like seeing New England, have the rebound back to prominence as quick as it's been. But it certainly makes it sting a little bit more to see them get a red carpet walk to the championship weekend.
You know what? But that's the thing. And this is what's always said. All you got to do is get in. You get in, and who knows what happens. Now, they got in quite nicely, winning, 14 games and, being this, looking like this dominant force, and everybody doubting, hey, look at your schedule. They don't pick the schedule. They beat who they were supposed to. We've had this conversation. I thought the Chargers would give them some work, and Chargers couldn't do anything for themselves. It was a hot mess. Now, mind you, Drake May had a decent game. He wasn't as sharp as he could be. So whoever comes out of this fiasco tonight might be in for a world of hurt, because May might say, okay, well, this is what I did wrong. Let me fix this real quick. And next thing you know, he's throwing for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and it ends up being like a freaking 38-3 drubbing either way.
Yeah, he was their leading rusher against the Chargers too.
Yeah. Now, mind you, and they've got some guys on that defense. Yeah, exactly. He's like, don't worry, guys. I'll run this week. You rest.
You rest.
Like, seriously, that's an embarrassing situation. You've got some really good running backs, and you're like, no, we're gonna let Drake May be the leading rusher. It's okay.
I'll say something positive about them though, because there is something to be said about catching lightning in a bottle, because the NFL is a very fickle mistress. So hey, they got a great hand dealt to them with a pretty easy schedule, and then the playoff matchups also go in their favor here with the Chargers, Pittsburgh, Houston. So it's also a situation where hey, they just take advantage of the situation that's been dealt to them, and they're running with it.
I'll tell you this though, if the AFC Championship ends up being hosted in New England,
I'm gonna hate that.
There might be a script somewhere. There may be something going on. I don't know, but if that happens, it might be the year of Drake May and Mr. Vrabel. I don't know.
Well, and that does take us into the next topic quite well, because Josh Allen is, despite not having anything to play with, is doing it all by himself and wearing the Superman cape. And Denver's got a quite the tall task that otherwise was probably not expected.
This is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, because Jacksonville had a decent defense, solid defense. Denver's another beast, man, and you're going to Denver, man. This is if Buffalo somehow makes it out of Denver with a win, so you might just have to put the house on it. I don't know, and I don't know, man. I like Denver just because of the defense. I don't know if Josh has enough to thwart that defense, but we'll see what happens. They're going to have to get a run game, and they're going to have to be able to throw the ball. It has to happen. So Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks are going to have to catch a ton and help out Shazier there. And James Cook has got to show up. He's got to come to a game. You know, they fly him in. They fly him in. He's part of the team. He can play. I need to see him.
That was something that I was. It kind of made Josh's performance all the more impressive. Is that Jacksonville really did take James Cook out of the ball game, and it didn't matter. So that's all adding to the whole playing with fire thing, because Denver's got that very legitimate defense as well. If they could take him out, they're really resting a lot for Josh to do it all by himself for a second playoff game in a row.
Yeah, and you really think about it. I guess Jacksonville's thought was, okay, we'll take Cook out. The wide receivers aren't, except for Shazier, everyone else is so we should be okay, and force Josh to throw the ball. Well, Josh said, I'm going to run it instead and, get 10-yard tush pushes and things of that nature, and pulls it out. Denver's defense now is just as good, if not better, at the line. I think their secondary is a lot better, and Jacksonville has a quality secondary. So now it's okay. Are they just going to do the same thing and say, all right, let's shut down Cook, and now you're going to throw on us? If that's the case, I don't know if Josh survives. I just don't know.
Yeah. That's what where's kind of you leaning in that one? Are you leaning in hot hand with Josh, or back to old reliable with Denver? Because they win everything close, but they still win somehow miraculously.
Like, I would love to see Buffalo pull it out. I really would. I'm really digging this underdog situation, but I don't know if it can happen. Like, literally, Denver would have to come out, and like Bo Nix would have to have the worst game of the year, I think, for it to happen. Now, mind you, it could happen. They've had some time off. Maybe, being the number one, maybe he's not ready for the absolute spotlight. But right now, I think you kind of have to go Denver. I think they're a little more complete.
It's a sad state of affairs that Buffalo's downfield targets are one of the bigger busts in the league in Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks, who was picked off the scrap heap.
Who knows? Maybe Curtis Samuel will show up, and next thing you know, be a hero and go 8 for 120 in a touchdown or two. Who knows? But right now, I think you got to lean Denver's way.
And another one. This one, I guess, is the second best divisional matchup, even if it's by default. And the only reason I say it's by default is we didn't exactly see a good performance from the Seahawks and the Rams a couple weeks ago. But the Rams are coming off that game in Carolina where they kind of took the Panthers for granted a bit. And Matthew Stafford, he got off to a hot start, and then he kind of lied or ignored the fact, or McVay kind of threw inhibition to the wind with his hand, with Stafford's hand, and they kind of barely survived that one. And then the Bears, everyone knows that comeback, that the borderline Atlanta Falcons level collapse by the Green Bay Packers. So something's got to give here, right?
Oh, it definitely does. So the question is, do the Rams say, okay, we had the scare, Stafford's finger's good, let's go out and play like we're supposed to? Or does it turn into this magical, you don't want to say magical run, because they did play solid the second half of the year with the Bears, but maybe not everybody sold on the Bears as much. And is it gonna, if it comes down to a last minute, victory by the Bears, can they pull it out again? Can Caleb, lead a, game-winning drive again?
Well, that is the question, because if the Rams obviously have a much more potent I should say that because Jordan Love had a hell of a game. This is another high-powered offense for this very porous Bears defense to try and contain. If the Rams get out to a lead and the Bears have a hole to climb themselves out of, can they do that against the Rams team whose defense is considerably better than the Packers defense?
If the Rams are up by double digits going into the fourth quarter, I don't think it happens. They'd have to be within a touchdown for the comeback and such. If the Rams all of a sudden turn it on and we're sitting there in the fourth quarter, and it's like 21-6 or something. I don't know if the Bears can come back because the Rams can just score at any moment. That offense is that potent. All it's going to take is like a two or three pass drive, and next thing you know, Puka's in the end zone, and all hope is over in Chicago. So Chicago's going to have to literally shut it down completely. And there's so many weapons on this Rams team. I don't think McVay lets what happened this past week happen again.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of the Bears defense. How do the matchups compare, like between Puka and Adams and tight end U to what they just saw in Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden and Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson?
The difference is you have Matt Stafford, not Jordan Love. Now, mind you, Jordan Love, and no disrespect to Jordan Love. Jordan Love had a hell of a game, but Matt Stafford's been in this situation. Matt Stafford's won the ring. He knows what it takes.
Yeah,
he's been in the situation. The Bears are beat up defensively. They lost some guys in that game, and it's great, next man up and all, but especially with the tight ends. The tight ends are going to be key. They're going to really help this pass game. I think in Chicago, they're going to eat. So I don't know if the Bears have enough defensively to overcome it. Yes, Green Bay had weapons, but those wide receivers are okay. Just run them down the field, and that's if they're catching them. Like there's sometimes where those guys are having drops and they're just not in sync. What we saw from the Rams this past weekend, I think, is a rarity. Adams is going to, I think, really show out. You've got Puka. You've got the tight ends. You got the two running backs. Like, I think there's just too much.
Yeah. The Caleb bubble is bound to burst at some point. But, I mean, at least it's a good building block to go into next year if it ends here.
Exactly. If the Bears don't pull it out and, they can just sit there and say, okay, now we build on it, and you'd have to kind of make them the favorites in the North next year, no doubt. But I just think the Rams are just, it's a collision course with the Rams and the Seahawks. I just think that, and I said this like a week or two ago, and I think that's just what this is.
Well, that is a hell of a way to set up our last divisional matchup, round 3 between the Niners and Seahawks, and round 2 wasn't so pretty to watch.
I would love for the Niners to somehow eke this out. I really would. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm all about the underdog, and I want to see the Super Bowl be something that everyone's like, "What the hell are we watching?" It's just that's what I want. I want muck, and I want muck. And I just don't know if I could be wrong. I don't know if the Niners have enough without Kittle now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the McCaffrey the McCaffrey train worked well against the Eagles, considering the Eagles are a mess and they don't know who's getting the ball on a play-to-play basis. But it doesn't so much have the same kind of effect against Seattle, which is more of a well-oiled machine.
Well, it is, but to the Niners credit, what Sam Darnold are we going to get?
That's right.
The elephant in the room, Sam's great in the regular season. When the playoffs come around,
ghosts.
Exactly. So what's going to happen, Ooh, excuse me. So this will be Sam's first year with the Seahawks in the playoffs. Maybe he comes out and just starts gunning and he throws for 500 yards and he's just living life, and the Niners train falls to an abrupt end. Not any fault of their own. The injuries may have finally caught up with them, but we need to see Sam and be consistent because they can run the ball and they got guys who can catch the ball. And that defense on all levels is maybe just as good as any other defense that's left in the playoffs.
So if all things go well in the Sam Darnold department, the MASH unit will have a far worse time dealing with that and all of Seattle's downfield weapons than they did against Jalen Hurts and the pull a card out. What receiver are we throwing to game?
Yeah, that and the fact that those receivers will probably catch the ball, and unfortunately, not like AJ Brown, just drop it and just everyone's got a bad attitude and blaming everybody for everybody else's problems. So yeah. So right now you could be looking at like, who knows if it all falls right, what, like the Buffalo Bills and the Bears?
Imagine.
Like I don't know. Like it's crazy. Like I said, I want to see the underdogs pull them out because I think this is probably the most entertaining playoffs we've seen in a while. Because now, yeah, there's some teams that you could say, yeah, they can make the game, but then you're like, well, not necessarily, because there are some warts on all these teams. But when it comes to the Seahawks, they've got a shot. It's just, what does Sam Darnold do? To me, he's the question.
What is to put a bow on all this? I think the biggest story out of the AFC, the biggest storyline is if Josh can get this done. But what's the biggest storyline out of the NFC? Like what storyline has the most juice to it as far as the team that could advance to the Super Bowl? Which of these final four NFC teams?
Well, it's a situation of the Seahawks have everything. Seahawks and the Rams are probably the most complete teams left, right? I think we could say that. So it's basically health for the Rams. Is Stafford's hand good? If it is, they go as far as he goes. Same thing with the Seahawks. As long as Sam's head is right, doesn't make mistakes, they're on a collision course. Now the other two, okay, can Caleb, kind of calm it down and lead some drives better? And can the Bears defense step up? And can the mash unit in San Fran kind of put it together enough tape, Gorilla Glue, and whatever else they got to win another 3 games? I don't know. But if it's going to be interesting to see out of the divisional who survives. But if you're asking me who has the least chance, I think right now you have to say the Niners, just on a health situation.
So what is your favorite potential storyline then? Is it Matthew Stafford's wild ride? Is it I guess Caleb Williams' wild ride, Matthew Stafford's ride into the sunset bid, or the mash unit Niners?
I don't know, man. I got a soft spot for this mash unit Niners team. I don't know what it is, man. I kind of hope that like Purdy blows it in the first half and then they roll Mac Jones out and he leads them. And then at that point, it just becomes the Mac Jones story. I just have this affinity for the man. But no, I think what it comes down to is if the Niners can piece together another run, and if they knock off the Hawks, then all bets are off. I don't bet anything this season.
Don't bet anything.
Don't bet anything. Don't act like your bookie's got a sure thing for you. Do not touch the NFL. Start betting on curling and like basket weaving out in like Somalia or something, because this ain't working. But yeah,
the Ocho,
the Ocho, the Nueve, whatever they got, man. Cornhole. Start betting on cornhole. But like I said, I'm kind of hoping that the Niners can figure this out and knock the Hawks off. I'd like to see it.
Well, Buccs McGee, that is a wrap on Wild Card Weekend. Programming note: our shows will be at halftime of the later of the 2 games on Saturday and Sunday. The schedule, we cannot wait to see when we'll be watching these matchups, or take us off air as we bid adieu to a Wild Card Weekend that started great and ended not so much.
It's like one of those movies where you're really excited to watch and you're like, oh man, it starts out great 3/4 of the way through, and you're like, yeah, because you don't get up to get the snacks. You're like, nope, I can't leave. And then the last 30 minutes, you're like, that's how you ended this mess? Really? And you can't get a refund, but it is what it is. So you just go buy yourself some Junior Mints or whatever candy you like to make up for the half hour, because you could have wrote the ending better. But overall, Wild Card Weekend was solid. I can't complain too much. Divisional, entertaining as all. Hopefully, we'll see what happens, and we just keep on moving.